right, welcome back to the Know Your Numbers REI podcast. This is your host, Chris McCormack, coming to you from great state of Minnesota, and we are continuing our conversation on the 7 areas where people make the biggest mistakes as it relates to their taxes. A lot of these can be mindset related, they can just be money related. Some of the two aren't always mutually exclusive, right? Your mindset around money can cause problems. But last week we talked about the different types of income and the way that it's taxed and why some people pay lower rates of taxes even though they make far more. And today we're going to be continuing that, but diving deeper into some of the options that are available when you move away from a less friendly tax vehicle and move towards a more friendly tax vehicle. I'll be speaking from personal experience as well as experience that we've had recently with some of our clients, and I trust that this hits home and you find it valuable. If you do find it valuable, if you know of somebody who might be able to relate to this, then I'd appreciate you sharing it with them. And if you get value out of it personally, then please leave us a 5-star rating and review. That really helps us get into the eyes and ears of listeners just like yourself who are looking for this kind of stuff. And if you are only following along on the audio version via Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we have recently included the video version on YouTube. And so you can subscribe and like and follow us on YouTube as well. We'll be posting there weekly. So let's get into it. The second costly mistake that people make as it relates to taxes, and this is lifetime taxes, is treating a brokerage account like a retirement plan. We have seen many people, and maybe you yourself, are investing consistently, but you are setting yourself up for a costly exit because of the way that you're putting money away and the approach that you're making to these savings. And it largely revolves around something like brokerage accounts or cryptocurrency accounts, where you park money and you invest it and you get a return on that investment. And then when you go to withdraw, you pay capital gains taxes. I was recently talking to a client who was doing just that. He was a little concerned about retirement and he was thinking more about retirement. And we started talking about what is available and what he has for his retirement plan. And he brought up the fact that he's putting a lot of money into crypto and stocks and enjoying it. And he was confident that he was saving a lot. But then there was kind of a shift when we started talking about the tax implications and the way that taxes will affect that. And the reason that there was a shift was because he realized that he hadn't thought too much about the tax implications, but he also knew enough to know that there were tax implications. And so as someone who was parking the money in a brokerage and crypto account, he felt a little hopeless almost, knowing that upwards of 20 to 25% of his returns would be taken in the form of taxes. It wasn't until that we broke down all of the options and the different tax opportunities that we were able to formulate a plan that turned into him being able to take more confident action and peace of mind knowing that the taxes were taken care of. But had we not had that conversation and we just kind of let it slide for the next 5-10 years, then it would have been a much more troubling experience. And he would have realized that while he was putting a lot of money away and saving and investing in vehicles that he was confident in, assuming they continue to grow, the taxes would be a serious issue. This is how it works for many Americans. I have been there. I've been in a position where I didn't foresee myself wanting to use something like a retirement account because my savings goals were a little more nearsighted in that 3 to 5 year range. And so I was putting a lot of our savings into a brokerage account and then kind of came to the realization like, hey, those things that we're saving for, we can make use of other savings vehicles to be able to acquire those assets. Okay, we're talking more of like a first-time home or an investment property while not having to face the burden of taxes, right? So if I parked all this money into a brokerage account and it grew from 20,000 to 80,000 over a 5-year time period, then we would be on the hook for 15% of 60,000. And so $9,000 of taxes, that can change the type of home that you're able to buy. That can change the type of debt that you have to take out on a certain home. And so for us personally, we have scenario A where I was meeting with a client, but also scenario B where it was us personally And we had to change the way that we approached it because we realized that we were setting ourselves up for a ticking time bomb as it relates to taxes. So most people don't realize the quiet cost of the tax drag. Every year, Uncle Sam is taking a slice of your growth, because even if you don't withdraw, like as you grow, the tax bill grows too. And if you hit a certain amount in gains and you start to withdraw those gains, your capital gain rate increases. Whereas if you were using something like a Roth IRA that was tax-free, or an insurance policy that allowed you to self-direct some of the investments while also compounding in the form of dividends, well, then you could truly plan for retirement and not have to worry about the taxes. So brokerage accounts get taxed on the interest that you earn, the dividends you earned, and then the short and long-term gains. A Roth IRA doesn't pay taxes except on the money that you contribute, right? You pay taxes in the year that you contribute because it's not tax deferred. It's pay tax now, tax-free later. And so you don't pay taxes on the growth. You don't pay taxes on the withdrawals. And this is a true approach to retirement planning. The other option would be an insurance vehicle, which we covered in a recent episode, where you can park money into a life insurance, cash value life insurance, pay the premium, so that comes off the amount that is actually growing and investing. But the amounts you're contributing over the premiums then has the ability to compound. Depending on the type of insurance vehicle, you can invest it in the stock market, you can invest it personally, you can use it for real estate purposes, you can use it for personal purposes, whatever it is. And because it's an insurance vehicle, you can tap into that tax-free through the use of policy loans. And so what most people just look to is the brokerage account, and I get it, they're easy to set up, it doesn't take much thought. But when you look over the time period, then you realize that a large amount of what you're earning, the gains that you're accumulating, are going to be taxed at 15 to 20%, and then more depending on what your adjusted gross income is, right? The net investment income tax will kick in at a certain adjusted gross income that you have. And so let's do some numbers. We've run some numbers. We said, okay, let's say we invest $100,000 and over the course of 20 years, it grows 8%. So assuming you are 40 years old, you invest $100,000. You have the option to invest it in a brokerage account, a crypto account, or a retirement account, or even an insurance account. That grows 8% each year. By the time you reach the age of 60, over the course of 20 years, you have accumulated $466,000 in your account. So now let's say we withdraw from that $466,000. In the brokerage account, you're going to pay taxes. You're going to pay capital gains taxes, which can be as high as 20% of the gain. And so 20% of the $466,600 is $93,320. So almost $100,000 is going in taxes because you invested it in a brokerage account and didn't plan accordingly. That's a lot of money. If you are relying on this as a retirement vehicle, that's like a year's worth of expenses, and maybe even more. And so the other option would be to have it in a tax-free account where $100,000 grows to $466,000 and the withdrawals are completely tax-free. Which one would you want? $466,000 or $372,000? So that it kind of speaks for itself, right? So the point is, and these aren't perfect numbers and this isn't a perfect illustration, but the idea is that most people, when you talk about what they have for retirement, they say that they have a brokerage account or a crypto account, and they're planning on using that as a retirement vehicle. The problem is that is taxed completely differently than if they actually use the retirement vehicle in the form of a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k or even an insurance vehicle. I don't put insurance and Roths in the same category. I lean towards, especially if you're getting started and you don't have anything set up, get the Roth, max that out until you get phased out through income reasons, or you now have too much money to contribute and you want to look elsewhere, and then you can consider the insurance. But to say that a brokerage account is the same as a Roth account would result in astronomical costs that you can avoid by planning accordingly. And so that's why we've looped this into the second biggest mistake people make, is that they consider this brokerage account as something that is part of their retirement plan, but then they don't consider the impact that taxes will have on it. And so in episode 1, we talked about the different ones. So capital gains were more advantageous than ordinary income. So a brokerage account isn't completely wrong. But the problem is when you use that brokerage account as your retirement plan and you forget that 15 to 23% of that is going to have to go to taxes. And again, that will start to take away at your living expenses. And you don't want to be doing that when income has gone down because you consider yourself retired. So let's not build our future on a leaky foundation. We got to set up the right accounts. We got to plan accordingly. I'm saying there's a time and a place for everything, especially if you're just getting started or you're not really sure what your retirement looks like. Getting these retirement vehicles that are advantageous from a tax perspective, assuming you can still contribute to them, is where you want to be. And then you can look elsewhere and start to consider what other options are available. If you got any value out of this, please do us a favor, share it with a friend. This is the Know Your Numbers podcast. We're going to continue our conversation on the 7 costly tax mistakes next week when we'll be covering more real estate specific strategies. You're not going to want to miss it. Until next time, God bless you and keep moving forward.